Man, I feel like we're giving the most in-depth analysis of this movie that anyone's ever going to give right now.
Well, it's so
I
bad.
said it
Yeah.
fails as a kids movie, it fails as a general audience movie, and it fails as a Tom and Jerry movie.
The only baby in cinema that I liked more, I think, than this baby was the Kung Fu baby from the intro of Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
That's a good baby.
All right, from the top.
Uh, Playhouse Reviews.
We're using the most advanced podcasting software available. Zooms.
Zooms
Micro-
and
Microsoft
yeah.
Zooms. Microsoft Zooms, new from Skype. Okay, so hello, YouTube. Today we got a very special episode of Playhouse Reviews for all of you. We're going to be talking about the 2021 Tom and Jerry movie, live action and animated. And then we're also going to be talking about Raya and the Last Dragon from Disney and like 4 different directors. So, before we get into it though, did you watch anything good this week, Charlie, that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I had a couple things I wanted to mention. So this isn't a movie, but I finished watching WandaVision. So that's the new Disney Plus show in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's basically like 2 parts. So one part is just like a satire of like old sitcoms, which I really liked that part. And like each episode's a different decade, and they're all like parodying other sitcoms. Like there was like a Malcolm in the Middle episode. So the sitcom stuff, I loved all of that. I thought that was really good, like modern take on a lot of these old sitcoms. And then the other half is kind of just Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, which I did not care for at all. It was pretty uninteresting.
Well, it can't be a Marvel movie unless they have set up for like another 10 movies and tie it back into
exactly.
like the other 20 movies. That's just a standard.
All they are is an advertisement for the next movie and then whatever merchandise they want to sell next. But
Was there any Baby Yodas in this one?
No
Is it
Baby
crossover with Star
Yodas.
Wars yet?
no Baby Yodas, just Robot Man.
Baby Groots? Baby Groots.
I mean, I'm sure they can turn the characters into babies. I mean, who doesn't want a baby Elizabeth Olsen? So
Yeah, I'm glad Nintendo pioneered that with the Baby Mario and Baby
Oh my
Peach
God.
characters. So
how
now Disney and Marvel
feel
are
about
catching
those
up.
baby characters. Yeah. One thing I wanted to point out, one thing that really bothered me is that there's like a really smart scientist lady that comes and does all this scientist stuff to figure out what's going on, and they cast Kat Dennings, and I feel like that was a real miscast of having Kat Dennings play a smart scientist lady.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah. So then one more thing I want to mention real quick is that I rewatched Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Good.
After watching Tom and Jerry, I was just like so mad at how terrible the movie was. I wanted to watch a good movie where it's like live action and animated to compare it to. So I'm probably going to be going into that a little back and forth when we're into the Tom and Jerry movie. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a great movie, and
Yeah, that's like a good example of animation done very well with a lot of time.
yeah,
and
well, they
care.
were really creative with it, which is I felt like the opposite of Tom and Jerry, which we'll get into later. But they did a really good job, especially since it came out in 1988. But it's definitely not a kids movie. It's rated PG, but there's a lot of like drinking and smoking and guns and adult themes. But I got the PG rating, so
Yeah, well, let's just jump into it then. We're already talking about Tom and Jerry, so let's do it.
okay. Yeah, so Tom and Jerry, let's talk about our general likes and dislikes. So, as a kids movie, do you think kids would enjoy this movie?
Maybe. I think they would enjoy the Tom and Jerry mouse bits, but the problem is they're not actually main characters in the movie. I felt it really focuses on Michael Pena and Chloe's character, or I think she plays Kayla. But that's kind of the focus, and I don't think kids would really care about this girl struggling to make it in New York and conning her way into a hotel event manager position, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that was my first thing. At the intro of the movie, they have like a short thing with Tom playing the piano at Central Park. But then immediately after that, it's like 30 minutes of Chloe Moretz trying to get a job at the hotel. And it's basically no jokes. It's just like her talking and conning her way up. And then I guess there were a couple of jokes when she was being interviewed, but it's not visually interesting for kids. I feel like there's no jokes to make kids laugh. It was just kind of boring.
Yeah, the jokes were like I don't know, just didn't seem very very tasteful and didn't really have good punchlines. It's just kind of like her making silly faces and like conning people, which maybe kids would think is funny, but I think the stuff kids really like is like when Tom was trying to like cross the wire to get into the window
Yeah.
and stuff, and like
Yeah.
the really silly kind of classic cartoon gags and bits.
Exactly. Okay, so then what about this movie as a film for general audiences? Just like a normal guy wanting to watch like a family-friendly comedy. Do you think it stands up in that aspect?
I'm gonna say no. This was definitely a subpar enjoyment level movie. Like if I had kids, I don't think my kids would have hated it. But I know me and my parents. I mean, most people have a hard time with kids movies anyway, just because they feel like they're kind of dumb and childish. This one kind of tries to go a little bit more raunchier with some of the potty humor and some of there's like very terrible or very badly done themes of discrimination, but I don't think it's enough to really have someone laugh out loud or someone care enough to make a point on it for like a good like home message.
I generally like toilet humor, but I think I only laughed once this entire movie, and it wasn't even at a potty humor joke. It was just when the guy getting married was like, "I love you both, but in different ways," and it's not even that funny, but it got a chuckle out of me. I was like the only laugh.
The funniest thing to me was just Ben's character. It was the groom. How he was just so dumb, but like he had literally no character, but he was just saying dumb stuff. I wasn't really laughing out loud and was like, it's kind of funny, like how really stupid he is. Then I think the funniest part though was at the very end of the movie. I think her name was Frita. The fiance, she looked at her phone, and then on her phone she had a picture of Ben, and he's just making a face like, oh, and it just was very quick, but I thought it was a super silly face that he had, and I thought that was great.
He was like the only enjoyable character I felt too. Fun fact: he's married to Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, lucky him. I would feel like I wouldn't say I liked his character. It's just he was just so stupid. I'm like, why they even put this character in the movie?
He was better than the rest.
He was compared to like any of the other ones. He was definitely funnier. I think.
Yeah. So then, now my third question is: does this stand up solely as a Tom and Jerry movie? If you just want Tom and Jerry and you don't care about the other stuff?
No, that was another one of my big problems with it. They're not really main characters in it. It just focuses on Chloe. Like Tom and Jerry are kind of in it, but they are just more of just kind of like the silly comic relief, like side characters that are like moving Chloe's plot forward. They're not really doing much. Like they have their little arcs, but they're not focused on a lot.
I feel like they're not even driving her plot forward. Really, they're kind of just. It's kind of just like some plot stuff happens with the human characters. Then there's like a skit with Tom and Jerry, and it doesn't really have anything to do with anything. Then it goes back to the human characters, and then like another goof with Tom and Jerry, and there's very little interaction between the two.
Yeah, there's like some of like maybe the key plot points. There was some, but then they get kind of lazy with that too because they have like that giant dust ball cloud thing, the gag that they do twice. Yeah. So when they do interact with the human world, it just turns into that big like tornado of them fighting, which is kind of funny. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like they didn't do anything creative really with it. They just
well, that's the thing too. So I don't know how much Tom and Jerry you watched much as a kid. Did you?
I watched it a pretty good amount, but I was very young, so like I remembered some of the gags, like when Tom was like talking to the angel and devil and stuff.
So a lot of these were exactly the same skits that were from the show. Like, I just know when they're at the museum and, like, the dinosaur bone falls apart and they have to put the big toe back on, that's exactly from the show. And I know, like, maybe some people think, like, it's cool to see, like, the famous skits, like
it redone in new animation.
Redone, with new animation or whatever, but after watching, I watched Roger Rabbit after, but they were super creative with all of the interaction and stuff, and I feel like Tom and Jerry really needed to, like, modernize a lot of the gags. Like, only at the very end they kind of did anything creative with, like, the drone and the skateboard, but other than that, I feel like they're just rehashing old gags.
And I feel like the skateboard was just a complete product placement for that longboard. It was like, I don't even know. It said like Broodniks or something was the brand. I have no idea. But I think they, instead of being creative with the like the Tom and Jerry gags and the kind of more situational humor and stuff, they tried to put a lot of emphasis and time into like being kind of more woke humor to try to appeal to younger people. There was a lot of like, especially from the boss, trying to be like politically correct. I think it was supposed to be like, he's kind of like ignorant and dumb and like laughing at how like stupid he is, and he's making his bad attempts at being like inclusive. But God, they came off as just horrible. Like,
Yeah,
it was
well,
not funny. It was just cringy.
Yeah.
And like you already didn't really like him anyway, but it was just bad. It just
Well, that was
wasn't
like
funny. It was just
Michael
stupid.
Pena's character has that thing where he calls her like an entitled millennial that just like comes in and like stirs stuff up, and it wasn't like a joke though. It was just kind of annoying and rude.
Yeah, he was just came off as super like mean for like no
Yeah.
reason. Like I thought it was kind of trying to be funny, but all the jokes felt really mean spirited in it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like they weren't
Yeah.
funny. Like sometimes just kind of like blatant bully, and if it's like completely over the top, like the classic high school bully, sometimes it's kind of funny.
They all kind of
Pushing a
bully
kid up
each
against the
other
wall.
too. Like Michael Pena bullies Chloe. She kind of bullies him back, and then like
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird.
And it was kind of dumb too because like he was making claims about Chloe, like, oh, you're just this like privileged girl who probably spoiled and gets everything she wants all the time. And it's like, well, maybe she is. We don't even know. Like she couldn't hold her last job down, but we don't know if she's homeless. Like, was she supposed to be homeless? Was she living on the streets before? Like they
Yeah.
kind of imply it with like Tom and Jerry looking like they were kind of like freeloaders. But I mean, they don't go into it at all, so you can't really draw any conclusions. Like maybe he made that claim, but if you knew Chloe actually did have a harder time, then you could sympathize with her. If they had it kind of bother her, make her feel sad, or have some kind of emotional reaction to it, but they never do. It's just kind of weird, surface level, like cheap jokes. I feel like of cutting people down.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the jokes were so bad. My big thing was like if they wanted to make a Tom and Jerry movie, not a Tim and Eric movie, which is way better, a Tom and Jerry movie. They should have just made one where it's just like Tom chasing Jerry for an hour and 30 minutes. I feel like in this one, if you took all the scenes from Tom and Jerry that are in this movie, it just would have been like a 30-minute episode.
Yeah. I mean, it had about like it's like they tried to took like an episode of Tom and Jerry and then like, okay, we need like a main protagonist and some other conflict to like carry like the kind of like the background. Let's bring the background to life of Tom and Jerry, even though they're not the main characters. I wonder if they just were too lazy to like focus on the animation. Like, oh, it's easier if we just film like Michael Pena and Chloe's character way more because it's just easier.
Yeah, well, that's what I was like. So that was one thing I thought was funny because after this movie, I was like, okay, what's a positive? And I was like, oh, the animation was like pretty good. Like it wasn't like amazing, but I liked the stylistic choice. But then immediately after, I watched Raya and the Last Dragon, and like, holy shit, the animation's like a billion times better. And I was like, okay, the one positive I had for this movie just got blown out of the water by Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yeah, well, I don't know. With the animation, I didn't care for it. I felt like they're trying to like do this weird, like it wasn't really 2D. It was almost like 3D animation made to look 2D. And then like the shadows weren't quite right. But then I also noticed because I had it on like 4K on like on HBO Plus streaming. So a lot of like the backdrops and the background was really obviously like just bad CGI. So it'd be like a cartoon character with just horrible CGI, and then some of like the foreground stuff, like it wasn't the Tom and Jerry animation style like in the movie. It was just bad CGI, and maybe they're trying to make so the real world looked more cartoonish or something, but it just looked like everything was a set to me. Like everything just looked like a really fake movie set.
One thing that I thought was funny too, this movie has a $50 million budget, and it's all filmed on one location. The whole movie is in that hotel, and then maybe like one scene at the beginning and the end in Central Park. And that's it. So I was like, oh, I guess Chloe Moretz and Michael Pena just got some nice paycheck movie here, which makes sense because they weren't trying like at all.
I don't know. I think Michael Pena put a lot of time into his one joke. Where I really enjoyed his social media commentary when he's like, "You're on the like the Facebook Times or the Instabook face and the Tiki Talkies." I think was the exact quote. Oh my God!
That
How much
joke
time
has
did he put
definitely
into
never
that?
been made before of a boomer mispronouncing social media names. So clever and creative. The writers really were up all night thinking of that one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I don't know if I want to talk about like just how Tom and Jerry weren't even like main characters in the movie. Like there was key like places or like plot points for their character development that just were left out for no reason. Like I didn't get why.
So
they
that was the
dropped
whole
so
thing.
much of that.
The whole movie, I was waiting for Tom to like play the piano, and that would like get people to like him more, or get him like another job at the hotel or something. But no, he played the song at the end of the movie, but that was it. And that was like the only character trait he had the whole movie, was that he plays piano, and then they did nothing with it.
Yeah, and so at the beginning of the movie, Tom's like walking in with his like keyboard like on the streets, and he sees like the John Legend billboard, and then it's like, oh, show tonight, and then he's looking at it, then it says like, oh, an opening is Tom Cat, like it flashes, then like his picture on the billboard shows up. So when I saw that, I thought that was him like imagining or fantasizing about, oh, one day I'm gonna make it, because then he's just playing in the park in the next scene. So I figured he was just like a homeless stray cat, basically was the point. But then when I was online looking up reviews of the movie, they're like, "Oh yeah, like music plays a key theme. Like that's like the main plot point of the movie is that Tom is opening for John Legend." And I'm like, "What? That's kind of weird." And then I saw another review, and and they said the same thing. Like, "Oh yeah, Tom, he was like opening for John Legend at the hotel, and that was his first show. That's why he goes to the hotel, is because he has an opening show. And then I guess when his like piano gets broken, he can't play the show anymore." I don't know, but it felt like there was this entire plot line and setup with John Legend that was just dropped for no reason. Maybe they couldn't get him in the movie, but I have no idea. It was just weird. Like, they didn't do anything with it.
There were so many dumb subplots. Like, that had nothing to do with it. Like, Chloe had a crush on the bartender. The, like, marriage wasn't working out between, like, the couple. Like, all these weird things they kept introducing, and then it was just nothing happened with it.
Yeah, but like you think a movie called Tom and Jerry, his name's literally the first person's name on the movie. They spend a little bit more time. I guess they spent more time with his plot than Jerry's, but like not much.
Yeah, it was really bad. There was no like.
Yeah. Well, then it would have made sense. Like if he was a pianist, like let's say he did have that show, he was going to open for John Legend, but then his keyboard gets broken, so then he's sad, so then he has to take a job at the hotel, like, and he's mad at Jerry. That would have been a great little like added plot point to.
And
make
he needed to like
with him more.
They said, like, if he catches Jerry, they would buy him a new piano or something. So that's his motivation.
Like, it's such easy little things they could have done, but they don't put any time. Like, oh, it's a kid's movie. Let's just do the bare minimum, scene from scene, and just.
They would rather just have Chloe like flirt with the bartender or something.
Yeah, or Michael Pena make some ridiculous jokes about how the fish isn't actually a manager at the hotel.
Yeah,
like there's so many just bad jokes.
So,
I don't even think kids would think it's funny, to be honest. I mean. I know I wouldn't if I was a kid, but I'm also was a kind of a fucked up sense of humor as a kid too, so I don't know.
Well, that was so I just want to say I almost turned this movie off at the beginning. When the pigeons started rapping, I was like, this is so bad.
I think that was Tim Story actually rapping. He was the pigeon I saw. If you look it up online, I'm pretty sure he was the pigeon singer. So that was why he put all the music and stuff.
It was so bad. And then I saw Michael Pena's name pop up second, and I was like, God damn it! Like I like Michael Pena as like a real actor, but I have never seen him funny in any of the comedies he's been in on. He's never been funny. Like
what about Chips?
Chips not funny. Dora the Explorer not funny. What was it? Was he in one other dumb one? Was he in Jumanji or something? I don't know.
He's in so many. He's in like a billion movies. Anytime they need like your token like Hispanic actor, they just put him in it.
Yeah.
They just, so I feel like they stereotype cast him at this point.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks. So, he's a good actor. He should be doing.
Yeah, like in End of Watch, it was really good. I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's another thing too. He had a really heavy Hispanic accent in this. Do you think that was his choice or a directorial choice, or it felt really out of place?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe in other movies he's hiding it better or something, but yeah, it was definitely someone's creative choice along the line, or maybe it was that's his normal voice and he was just being lazy because
I don't know. It just seemed really exaggerated.
Yeah, compared to like his normal stuff. Yeah, I think that was kind of that's what I mean. There was like subtle themes and hints of like discrimination in Tom and Jerry, like how like the animals were treated poorly, and then like even the boss like, oh, we'll hire Tom just because we need him for the cat, but we can't treat him like a normal employee because he's a cat. Come on, that's silly. And then even like Michael Pena like kicks out Tom. He's like, we're not gonna let a stray cat stay here. Go back to the streets. What are you like? It was very like those were definitely kind of like I got Zootopia vibes. Like, but Zootopia does it really well with like the predators and prey and the police and stuff. This they're just kind of like weird. It's almost like they just do that as jokes in the movie. It's like they're almost making fun of like political.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, the jokes
are
really mean spirited, which I don't know. Like I said, I guess that maybe that's the true spirit of Tom and Jerry. Because when was it made? Like in the 60s? So maybe
I think it started in the 40s. The very first.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is. They're just trying to get that 40s discrimination themes going on. But one of my big things was that this movie needed to be modernized. Like it needed some of the spoofs to be mixed in with like what's going on today.
Well, that's why they had the tiki-talkie jokes. That was all right. Job done. That's tied into modern now. But no, yeah, they definitely should have. They definitely need to have more modern stuff in it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I felt like all of the interactions with the human characters and the anime characters were really bad. Like, it never felt like the animated characters were in the room. And then, like, that is what Roger Rabbit does really well. Like, the tunes in that are like part of the world, and they feel like the strong interaction. And like, that movie was made in 1988, and like, they're like fighting with the tunes and like getting thrown around and stuff, and it looks good. In this one, like, when they try to give each other like a high five, which is like literally the only interaction, that doesn't even look good in this.
No, yeah, they were like did the bare minimum, I think, for Tom and Jerry. I mean, Roger Rabbit's like the perfect example of it done right, but they also spent like tons. I mean, I don't know, this was still $50 million budget movie, so they probably could have done it. But I mean, in that one, they had like actual like stuffed animals and stuff, where those scenes where like they're throwing like the Roger Rabbit around the room and stuff. They actually had stuffed animals in there, and they like would do like animate it like 3 times or something. I saw like some video to get the shadows right. But so they put a lot of time into it. But even this, like in Tom and Jerry, though, didn't even bother putting them in the same shots if they could.
Yeah, like when they talked, they would just cut one person's face, Tom's face, other person's face. Like, they weren't even in the same shot ever. But like in Roger Rabbit too, it felt like they were part of the world. Like in Tom and Jerry, like all animals were animated, but they never really acknowledge it. They never really say anything. There's a scene where they're at the fish market and they're throwing the dead fish around. So it's like, what happens when people eat it? Are they eating cartoons? Like,
oh yeah,
like,
that's kind of yeah. You're right. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, they just eat the animals. That would have been another cool kind of controversial theme to explore.
Yeah, but it's just weird because like no one really acknowledges it, and like even the one dog kind of talks a little bit, but no one acknowledges, and it just felt really weird.
Yeah, well, I think the dog talked in the original cartoon, didn't he? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean he did, know. But
yeah, they
like
don't.
I said, but then that one, the human characters are silent. Also, I think for 99% of it.
Yeah.
So
well, it's one of those things where they should have at least like made a commentary on it. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, how come this dog can talk? Like, oh wow, a talking dog. Ha ha ha. I feel like movies do that kind of stuff all the time. Just really simple, kind of dumb jokes, like just pointing it out and making it obvious.
Because
like, enough.
In the old cartoon, like the human characters, you would only see them from like the waist down. You never saw any of their faces or anything. So it makes sense in that, like, they don't need to acknowledge it because, like, the humans are the side characters. But in this, the Tom and Jerry are the side characters. So I feel like they needed to at least acknowledge that everything is cartoons or in some way.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I mean, they could have. It's just the bare minimum effort again. Like, that'd be too complicated for this movie, so we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But, like, back to, like, pointing back to Roger Rabbit, like, for the animation and, like, another thing to make the worlds feel like they're one world instead of an animated and like real life one. Like, you know, the one scene where she's at the bar and like Jerry like goes in her coat pocket or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it shows like the actual like bump in her jacket moving around in the real world. So like that's a really good example of like, oh, look at the animals are influencing the real world.
Yeah, they would like
they didn't do that like at all in the movie.
Because when, like you said, when they fought, it just went into the cartoon tornado. But like in Roger Rabbit, they actually are like breaking shit and like grabbing real things off the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah, that just felt like a passion project. This just felt like a quick cash grab. I feel like they're trying to like push the boundaries of what animation and real life crossover could be for Roger Rabbit and Tom and Jerry. They're like, all right, I'll just do a bare minimum.
Well, Roger Rabbit was like insanely creative with the spoofs and stuff, but
well, I
mean,
was
pretty much better in every way. But
yeah, I forget the director of Roger Rabbit, but Tom and Jerry is the same director that did Taxi with Jimmy Fallon and the Ride Along series. So
and didn't he also do a bunch of like Kevin Hart documentaries? I'm assuming they're stand-up, but on IMDb they are listed as documentaries, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. I think he did. I'm pretty sure he did all 3 of the Ride Along. Same director for all 3 of them. So
those are really
I think
bad.
that
those
just
were
kind of
another ones that like weren't really comedies.
Yeah. So I mean, not saying that Tim Story is a horrible director, but you can just kind of tell at what point of his career he's at if you've made 3 Ride Along movies.
So another thing I want to talk about was the sound editing of Tom and Jerry. So not only was the weird hip hop music felt really out of space, like the editing was so bad, like the music would be playing so loud and characters would be talking and it was still way louder than dialogue. I watched it with headphones on, and I still had a hard time like understanding what was going on. It was just so weird.
Yeah, I had to keep like switching through the volume. I don't know. I feel like that's common with. I don't know if it's just HBO Plus, but Netflix is Netflix is better though because they've been around long. But yeah, the music is really out. This was especially noticeable though. But I think that was because Tim Story, he was he directed a bunch of like music videos in the late '90s and early 2000s. And I think he was actually in Ice-T's like music group or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, he has a background in like 90s hip hop and R&B, which was I think kind of a focal point of the movie. Like when I was reading about it online, they like were calling like, "Oh, this movie has such a modern hip hop soundtrack. It's so good." I'm like, "This isn't really modern hip hop though. This is kind of like remixes of like 90s
throwback,
stuff with, like, some
yeah.
EDM elements. This isn't like This isn't Juice WRLD. This does not sound like modern hip hop right now."
But I feel like it just didn't fit with the movie. Like this weird like hotel movie. It has like this weird hip hop aesthetic to it. It just felt out of place. I don't know. I didn't.
Well,
think
I mean,
it
if it was like New York in the '90s, then that would make sense, or even early 2000s. Like if this was a time period movie, but no, it takes place in modern day.
And then like
so yeah, there's no point in having that type of music in this other than the director just liking it.
Or it could have been like part of Chloe's character or something. Like she listened to it or something. But I mean, she had no personality. But I think it could have been cool if like at the beginning she's on the bike and she's like has headphones on and is listening to the music, or had it something to do with the actual plot of the movie. But I mean, that was definitely way too hard for the people to figure out in this movie.
I mean, it's not like the music was bad. I mean, some songs are better than others, but like I didn't care for Tom's song that he played on the piano in the hotel. That one I thought was pretty bad. It was like extremely auto-tuned. Maybe that's the modern bit.
Yeah, that was weird.
Super auto-tuned.
I feel like that was just another joke that just wasn't funny too.
I don't think that's just the style now of music. So maybe that was the modern part, but it just like, I don't know, it just didn't add anything to the movie. It's like it's not needed. I mean, maybe if you love that style of music, it would make the movie more enjoyable for you. But again, they didn't tie it in at all. It just felt like,
well, it's one of those
this is a good song that's just kind of there and wasn't work with.
It was one of the things. It was just it felt out of place, and then on top of that, it was edited so poorly where it was too loud, and then those things together just made it stand out more, I think. So then I don't know. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he wanted to highlight the music because he likes the music. Maybe Tim Story is like, "Wow, this movie's garbage, but at least the music's solid. So let's just highlight the music as much as turn the volume up to." 11.
I don't know. I feel like when he told me that he was part of a group, maybe it's just like music that he owns the rights to, and he's like, "Oh, I can give myself a bigger paycheck if I just use this music I already own."
Yeah. Yeah, he's part of Ice-T's Rhyme Syndicate, according to Wikipedia. But yeah, I was just really mad. I think I was just mad from the start because they set up like that billboard with John Legend, and I really wanted him to make an appearance like in La La Land or something.
That would have been a funny gag.
Yeah, because I love John Legend, but he wasn't in it.
Everyone loves John Legend. They were just teasing us,
dude. Again, I feel like that was an absolute plot point that was like agreed upon and like some deal was signed, and then like at last minute, John Legend got pulled for whatever reason, maybe because of COVID. Who knows? But that's my theory because the setup seemed there.
Well, I mean, it's not like he's doing any concerts. I mean, what else is he? He could make an appearance in this terrible movie. They don't even have to have him with real characters. They could just have him with Tom and Jerry.
I don't know. My theory is that he signed the deal. He was ready to be in the movie. They filmed it. They did it. And then they had like the first screening of it. And then John Legend watched this and he's like, "Please take my name and cut me out of this movie. I will pay you back all the money because I don't want any part of this fucking movie." And then just took off. He's like, "I'm out. This is a disgrace to my career." And then just left. I think that's my theory.
Yeah. And then from a making perspective also, there were a lot of inconsistent shots. Usually that stuff doesn't bother me. Like, it's just like whatever. But this one, it was really bad where like a character would be standing and then it would cut and they'd be like leaning really far forward and stuff. And normally that doesn't bother me, but it happened so much in this movie, especially when interacting with the animated characters. Like, I was like, God, they really were so lazy.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff, too. Like, there was one, like Chloe, she kept, like, touching her tie that was, like, tucked into her shirt. And then, like, Michael Pena makes a comment on it. He's like, quit doing that. She's like, sorry, it keeps, like, popping out. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But then literally in, like, throughout the movie and like almost every other scene she's in, if it cuts, it just cuts to her doing that. Like she's just constantly doing. I'm like,
so
why?
Many weird cuts in this movie. Yeah, and it's not like it's a joke because like you wouldn't normally notice that, but
yeah, and it's like, why would they point it out? Like, was it supposed to be a joke? It's one of those things where it's like maybe it was kind of funny on paper, but they didn't like do the filmmaking right, so it didn't come off as a joke. It was just kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like same with like Tom looking up at the billboard, like was he fantasizing about opening for John Legend? Or was he actually supposed to be opening for John Legend?
Who knows?
It's like they're like they don't put enough focus on like these little things happening, and it's like kind of subtle maybe, but as a viewer you don't really get it. So then you're missing,
well,
like,
I mean, they would
stuff.
just rather do like 100 subplots that don't go anywhere. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
that's
the-
basically
like-
the movie. It's just a bunch of subplots that don't go anywhere. And
Yeah.
Chloe gets
Yeah.
the job at the end. Great job.
Well, I mean, if the side plots were like actually funny, I guess, then maybe like what was the one comedian that was the chef? Like he's sometimes kind of funny, but like I don't know, he didn't really add anything to the movie other than he hates Jerry, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. With all these side plots that were just dropped, it was just stupid. Even like Tom and Jerry's plots were ruined. I mean, we already talked about Tom's being dropped, but I also feel like Jerry, like they didn't even spend.
They didn't
any
even
time with
try.
him.
Yeah.
They didn't even try. And another weird part that really bothered me was like, okay, so you know how the bride loses her ring, so then Chloe has to go look for the ring, and then like it just Jerry has the ring. Why wouldn't they show Jerry getting the ring?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't they like show him like that could have been a great opportunity to just develop him even a little bit? Like he's like, oh, shiny ring. I kind of want to take it, but I know I shouldn't. Like he has like the kind of like the devil and the angel on his shoulder, like Tom had or something. And then it's like, oh, I don't know. Then maybe they cut, and then like, oh, you don't know if he took it or not. And then later it shows, oh, he did take it. That would have been a perfect opportunity to like tie in the normal plot of Chloe to like Jerry and like have Jerry actually do something that matters in the
nothing
story.
is connected at all in this movie. But I feel like with that specifically, they probably like could only have the animators work like 20 hours a week because then they'd have to like pay their health benefits or something. So they're like, we have to keep the animation at a bare minimum for this Tom and Jerry animated movie, but can't have them work more than 20 hours because we don't want to pay them benefits. We gotta give 25 million to Chloe and 25 million to Greg Pena, and then the animators
Rest is
can-
outsourced. Animators outsourced.
Yeah, they can get the pennies left over.
Yeah, that was it wasn't even great. So yeah, all those side stories and side developments were terrible. And then even Chloe's, where they spent majority of the time focused, it was really about her and Michael Pena's kind of back and forth. So he's kind of set up as the antagonist. I wonder if they're trying to draw parallels to like Tom and Jerry, because like the two of them are kind of butting heads the whole movie too. And then at the end, they kind of terribly tie together, like, oh, even though you disagree with people, you can still be friends. Tom and Jerry are friends. You and your shitty, slightly racist boss can be friends. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, work is great. Work hard, even if you conned your way into a job.
Yeah, I feel like the target audience was just like boomers that grew up with Tom and Jerry. Like I feel like that's the audience because they probably think like, haha, Chloe's a millennial. That's so funny. Like,
yeah, it did feel like all the jokes and whoever wrote this movie was very out of touch with younger generations.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I mean. Like, there's no modernization of it. Like, they have like that one kind of montage with Instagram, but that's literally the only thing, and it's not really a joke. It's just kind of something that happens.
Yeah, and even with like the virtual reality scene where like Ben's playing VR and it has like that giant screen, like that just which is obviously fake and like CGI. It's like that's not what video games look like right now. Like it's kind of dumb. Like it's I feel like that's exactly like, oh, that's what like a boomer would imagine like VR games looking like right now.
Yeah.
Because they've never actually played and don't know anything about it.
Man, it's so crazy that this was supposed to be like a really big theatrical release too. I remember before COVID when they're advertising it, like this was going to be like the next big thing.
Tom and Jerry.
This
reboot.
is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, then okay, I want to talk about the themes just a little bit more, like, because I mean, not that like I know it's kind of the deeper level, and you probably shouldn't even be looking at a deeper level of a movie at this point. But like, especially for a kids movie, there needs to be some kind of like lesson learned at the end, and like kind of moral of the story at least, some level, you know. And most movies are saying something, but it was just so convoluted and horrible. So
well,
like,
they kind of just throw it all in exposition at the end of the movie, but I don't even like remember what they said. But yeah,
well,
go
okay,
ahead.
well,
Yeah.
basically at the end they say this was my take. It's like lying is bad. That's the main moral of the story. Lying is bad because Chloe lies to get the job in the first place. Yeah. So that's bad. But then she gets fired because she messes up the event. So it's like, oh, okay, lying is bad. Even if it gets you an opportunity, it's still bad. So then you lose your job and like you have to tell the truth. So telling the truth is good, lying is bad. But then she gets the job again. She gets hired back, even though she tricked everyone. So it's basically, yeah, lying is bad, but you can still get the job and it gets you your foot in the door.
Well,
so
yeah,
who cares?
It was also weird too because it was like, oh, if you have enough ambition, you can do anything, which is another like boomer theme where it's like, oh, yeah, you can't get a job. Well, you just got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and be ambitious and go knock on the doors and bring them your resume.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
thing.
yeah, you lost your job because you weren't working hard enough.
Yeah.
Which wasn't even the case. It was because you got sabotaged by the ex-manager, ex-employee of
I
the
mean,
company.
honestly, if they want to blame anyone, it's whoever said it was okay to bring elephants into like that tiny ass room.
Which was Michael Pena. Pena. It was him. He's the one who said yes.
Yeah. So,
but even the message of her, like, okay, lying is bad. Telling the truth is good. And if you work hard, you can redeem yourself. But for her to work hard, she basically just like throws herself into the middle of this marriage, goes out of her way to convince Ben to marry her, go after like Frida, and then like force them to have a wedding. And it didn't, to me, it didn't seem like they were a good couple. Ben seemed like he was aloof and dumb and didn't listen at all. I mean, we only got a small snapshot of their relationship, but it was not clear to me that they were meant to be together. So, in my opinion, it seemed like Chloe, she didn't actually do it out of the goodness of her heart to bring them together. She just wanted to bring them together so she'd get her job back. That was my take. So it's like, do whatever. Involve yourself in marriages. The marriage will still work out even if you ruin it, but just force them to get married so you can get your job back.
That was kind of the thing, too, with the subplots that were dropped. I kind of felt like it was just like an Instagram marriage where they were only doing it for the followers and the clout. But then now, because when they first introduced them, they're like, oh, they're the perfect couple on social media. But then again, that didn't go anywhere either.
Yeah, well, that's another very subtle, poorly done kind of commentary on like young people using social media right now. You know, like it's just another one of these shitty things that's half-assed and thrown in there, but they didn't actually spend any time to make it like. Man,
I feel like we're giving the most in-depth analysis of this movie that anyone's ever going to give right now.
Well, it's so bad from every element. Like to your point, it's because people just overlook kids movies. Like, oh, it's a kids movie. You know, you don't have to scrutinize it, but when you do. I mean, there's different levels of bad movies. Like, there's good kids movies. And
that's what I always say. When people just say, oh, it's a dumb kids movie, just, like, turn off your brain. But, like, Studio Ghibli has been making consistent, like, good kids movies with, like, strong themes and good messages, entertaining. I guess they're not so much comedies, but they're just, like, good kids movies. So I was like, why can't other studios do that?
Yeah, but there's even like just in comparison, just compare them to other kids movies. Like look at Tom and Jerry, for example. Then look at like, I don't know, in Ice Age or like Over the Hedge, which aren't great movies, but they're still kind of dumb, funny kids movies where like crazy shit happens in them. And it's like, they're not good, but there's definitely one's better than the other. Even like I would say Ice Age 3 or like Happy Feet or something, you know, like are much better than fucking Tom
that's
and
my
Jerry.
big thing. I usually laugh a little bit at kids movies, just at the absurdity of a lot of them. But this one, I only laughed once, and it was just maybe I was just brain dead from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and I don't know, with this movie there was a lot of like again side plots that were dropped, but also just like subtly weird discrimination, like jokes and things, which like as a kid watching it, like I don't know, they don't really make it that clear that you shouldn't be mean to people. Like all the people that were being mean and kind of terrible, like they just ended up being friends and nothing really happened. There wasn't really consequences to it.
I mean, because they all kind of bully Michael Pena. Like,
yeah, and they bully the animals really badly too. They kind of treat the animals like subhuman people, which isn't good. So it's like, and that's another thing. They kind of loosely draw it together, but they don't make a point or take a stance on it. So as a kid, they're not going to really get it or understand it. But I mean, they think like, they might pick up some of those ideas and copy the behaviors. So which is not good in this movie. Yeah. So.
Well, that was my big thing. They should have just made it an actual Tom and Jerry movie where it's just them, like, Tom chasing Jerry around or something. And that would have been way more interesting.
Well, they set it up like that, too. It's like, oh, Jerry's going to the Big Apple, and, oh, Tom happens to be there. Uh-oh, shenanigans they get into. Then it could have been like, okay, well, Jerry goes to the hotel maybe. Then Tom follows him, and then they run into each other again. And then, like, Jerry goes to somewhere else, like another country. It could be like a travel, just in silly
Well, I mean, they can't do that because they only wanted to film the whole thing in one location, but...
Yeah, I don't know. That is the weirdest
thing. Actually, now that I think about this was before COVID, too, so they could have done multiple locations and stuff because this was all pre-COVID. Oh my god, I hate this movie so much. I think this is the worst one we've watched for our reviews so far.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would say if I had to rewatch like this or Wrong Turn 7, I think I'd rather watch Wrong Turn 7 again.
I think so too.
At least the first half of Wrong Turn 7 is kind of like exciting, like normal horror.
And it had a couple good death scenes. This one I didn't have any really.
Yeah, like, the
parts.
trial scene from Wrong Turn 7, which is just super cringy, doesn't make sense, and poorly acted. That's how I felt about all of Tom and Jerry. I'm just kind of mad and like, wow, this is a lazy movie, not really well acted. The jokes aren't thought through well. The editing's terrible. The soundtrack's too loud. The sound editing's bad. Like, really, from every element of filmmaking you look at this, it's not good.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
I agree 100%. Like I said, it fails as a kids movie, it fails as a general audience movie, and it fails as a Tom and Jerry movie.
Yeah, it makes me like, I don't remember particularly loving Tom and Jerry as a kid, but now I really don't want to go back and ever rewatch any Tom and Jerry again. If Tom and Jerry wasn't completely dead before this movie came out, it will be now.
Yeah,
it will be now.
I don't think I have anything else to say about this before I get too mad.
Yeah, I know. We should probably call it quits on Tom and Jerry.
Okay.
So I think if it's not obvious by now, I would not recommend this pile of garbage to anyone. For kids, for anything, for adults, for man-child adults. No one would enjoy this movie, I think. What about you, Charlie?
I would not recommend this to anyone. There's so many better ways to spend your time.
Yeah. My one of my friends has been telling me I need to go and rewatch all of the Marvel Universe movies, and I was like, or not even rewatch. I haven't seen most of them, so I was like, oh, you should just watch them. It's time, so you can really appreciate the second half of WandaVision. And I'm just like, you know what? I really don't want to. That sounds like the worst thing ever. But
I didn't understand most of WandaVision, so.
But you know what? After watching Tom and Jerry, I would much rather watch all of the Marvel movies than watch Tom and Jerry again, I think.
Oh, I just want to say at the end of WandaVision, instead of a big blue laser shooting up into the sky, threatening to destroy everything, in WandaVision, it's a big red laser.
Oh,
at least they're getting creative now. So for our next movie, we're going to be talking about Raya and the Last Dragon, directed by Don Hill, Carlos Lopez Estrada, Paul Briggs, and John Ripa. Also 2 screenplay writers and 8 storyboard writers. So, James, what were your thoughts of Raya and the Last Dragon?
Well, considering 4 directors and all the writers, thought it was going to be a pile of garbage with a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Well, 2 of them have parentheses co-director. I don't know what that means. So it's 2 directors and then director parentheses.
Or there's
Jokerman font.
smaller, tinier font. Not main director, second co-director. I really wish they numbered the co-directors and the first directors, like number 1 director Don Hall, number 2 director Carlos Lopez Estrada.
I need a whole breakdown. I need to know what scenes each one of them directed.
Yeah, I would like to know that. Very, very curious. But I'm going to say that I think Carlos Lopez Estrada probably had much more to do with it than Don Hall, just because he was the director of Blindsiding, which was a great fucking movie. But I'm assuming
Don Hall's name is first on IMDb.
Yes, but I'm thinking that the reason why they probably had 2 directors is because this is not an like indie kind of lower budget movie like was Blindspotting was. I think this is a big fucking animation movie, so that's harding like an animation director.
Well, I mean, I kind of
just assume... a Disney big budget movie.
Yeah,
so
I assume everything by Disney is just done by committee, and there's no one's allowed to be creative at all. It's
But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought I was not going to like this movie that much, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually watched it twice this week because the first time I watched it, I had a little too much wine, and I don't remember key plot points or really what happened. The people I watched it with said that I just kept making Lord of the Rings references and commentary the whole time, and it was very distracting. So
I mean, I really did like the high fantasy aspect of it, and it did remind me a lot of my Dungeons and Dragons games, where it's just a bunch of silly characters going out to do like an epic quest to save the world. So it definitely got D&D vibes.
Oh yeah, it was good. It was this basically straight up fantasy. It was great. It was well done. The action scenes were really good. It looked beautiful. Animation was great. But what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like a perfect movie, but it was still, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It was really solid, and I just want to say the animation was beautiful. The music was really good. The plot was good. It wasn't like great. And like I enjoyed almost all the characters. So
I feel like for a plot though, like for a typical Disney movie, they tried to do a lot and they did it pretty well for a Disney movie compared to like other fantasy movies though. Like obviously like Lord of the Rings is like very similar plot. but it was done not as good. So like when
Well,
you're
I feel
comparing
like
it to
this
some
one-
of the greats, and you read a lot of fantasy too, so you probably know what like actual good story is like. But
Well, I mean, this one is really ambitious because they go to like 5 different cities in the movie. So I saw a lot of other people saying like, oh, it would have been like a good miniseries because people wanted to see more because the cities were like really cool. Like you were talking about the water city and how nice everything looked there. So I wouldn't mind more time in that. But like I said, the movie was just ambitious and it didn't really bother me. It kept things moving quickly.
yeah, that's what I mean. It tried to do a lot, but it did not feel rushed to me. Normally,
Yeah, I didn't think so
when
either.
they throw in a bunch of stuff, like it all moved quickly enough. When they went to each village, it was really just a time to. I mean, they had a lot going on. Like they had to get to the village to get each part of the jewel, which worked really well. And then they also introduced a new character each time, and they had enough time with the character. There were simple stuff, but it was enough to make you care. Like each of the characters introduced, they actually had a little bit of a backstory, and like they were kind of deep, dynamic characters that weren't as like simple as you would like expect them to be.
Yeah, not like the subplots in like Tom and Jerry where it's just like this stupid throwaway one. Like each character had like a little bit of background and like at least like one character trait that they carried out through the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and they're all kind of united too through like the plague that was killing everyone or turning everyone to stone. So it's like that kind of like was representing war. So it's kind of like, oh, everyone's coming together through these hard times, which was very emotional.
That was kind of
and like
and
heartfelt.
it fit with the themes where like they kind of like prejudged all the different villages, but then when she saw them, she was like, oh, everyone is like dying because of this, and like they're not that different. They're all just like people, and it was nice too. It wasn't like in your face where they just gave you a bunch of exposition explaining that. They just did it through visual storytelling.
Yeah, it was good. And then even like I don't know, just again comparing Tom and Jerry, like the main protagonist Raya, and then her enemy of the Fang village, the other younger girl, Namari. Yeah, they were like pretty solid enemies the whole time. She was a good villain, but she was a complex villain. Like you saw the dynamic with her and her mom, and then at the end they actually are able to overcome their differences, and it's pretty well like taking this step and like sacrificing herself. Like it's really well done. Unlike in Tom and Jerry, where they're just kind of like half-assed the throw together Chloe and Michael Pena's character. Oh yeah, well, I sabotaged you and ruined it, but I guess whatever. You know, you lied too, so we're both liars. Ha ha.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what we hate is when they just tell us the themes and exposition. Like, I care a lot.
Well, this they just showed it to you. I think there was some voiceover, but the voiceover was more of like telling the story of the war, which is like similar to Lord of the Rings again. They kind of tell
like
the
a bit of
story
an
of the
epilogue,
rings. Which works very well for fantasy. So I think that the voiceover in this wasn't bothering me. They didn't need to, and they still showed it visually with the animation too. So it was good.
Yeah. No,
and it's a kids movie. Normally you need a little bit more of explanation, which they did in dialogue too throughout the movie. So it was well done.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And then I just want to say too, I think this is like peak animation. The movie was so beautiful, and like the characters' clothes and like the water and like the movements of like Aquafina's hair, like everything looked so nice. Like when I think I said it before, but like Tom and Jerry, when I watched that, I was like, oh, it looks pretty good. Like I don't mind the style. But then I watched this and I was like, holy shit, Tom and Jerry is shit.
Yeah, well, see, I was reversed. I watched Raya first and then Tom and Jerry. So from the start, I'm like, God, this is horrible animation. And I was really disappointed that in Tom and Jerry, it wasn't actually true like 2D animation, like old school. It was actually 3D animation that was like made to look 2D.
I think it was
I don't know why they did that.
Cell shading.
But it just looked like shit to me. Like it was a bad stylistic choice. It was just ugly. I don't know what they were going for in Tom and Jerry. But Raya, it was great. That water
and all the environments were like so. Because I think the last like big Disney movie that I like really paid attention to was Frozen, which looked good, but I mean everything's just ice. Like there's only so much you can do with the ice. Where this one they go to deserts, they go to like waterfalls, they go on mountains. It looks so good.
Well, I remember the one that I really liked and thought looked just gorgeous was when what was they're like walking through the grass field where all like the stone dragons were. And it was like sunset times where the clouds were super pink and like the wind was blowing the tall grass and like the dragon statues were there. It was just so colorful and this huge sweeping landscape with just every shot looked so good.
Oh, and there was like so much movement going on too. Like all the characters were always like everyone was moving around and like doing something at all times. So I mean, I feel like a lot of them cut corners by just trying to like move their mouths and stuff, but this one everyone was just moving.
Yeah, they did good. So, all right, what did you not like about it? What were some of your big problems?
So I was really worried at the beginning because when the gem got stolen from their original, their village was the Heart, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. When the gem got stolen, there were so many like stupid decisions. So she got tricked. Like, I understand that, and then like it makes sense that like the Fang village got there quick because they were like ready and waiting.
It was their plan to steal it.
Yeah, it was their plan, so that makes sense. But then all of the other villages also got there like instantly, except for the people who live there. Only the main girl and the dad got there. They don't have like their own army or something. So then,
yeah, it was just Raya and her dad were the only two guards of the fucking stone. So that means the rest of the village is just like dicking around the whole time.
Yeah,
just
they're
like,
still at the
whatever.
feast, I guess. Oh, they didn't want to come until they finished their stew. But
I mean,
so
it did
that
look
was
like pretty good stew. If that was the explanation,
yeah,
they're
it had
too
all the
busy eating
ingredients from all the villages. I was
yeah, dude, that looked fucking delicious. But
yeah. So then anyway, so then they have their conflict. It breaks. Each village steals their little piece. Okay, whatever. So then the next scene, the dad's injured and the monsters are coming.
yeah, they've unleashed the plague because they broke the
What are the
protection stone.
The drun?
The Droon.
Droon?
I think it's Droon, if I remember correctly. The Droon.
Droon. So then they're on the bridge and the other villagers still aren't there to help. Like, they know what's going on now. Like, shit hit the fan and no one's there to help the dad, and like the little girl can't carry him.
I think it's because all the people just suck. That's kind of the thing. Like, oh, people just in chaos. They're all shitty. That's why the wars fight. That's why the world's going to shit, because everyone keeps fighting. No one's helping each other. But
I guess,
that's just my explaining. It's
But you
not
think
actually
someone
clear
would
in the
want to
movie.
help the like village leader for political
Yeah,
gain or something? Like,
Maybe he was a really bad leader. Maybe that's
yeah, I mean, we don't really know. He's just nice to his daughter, but maybe shitty to everyone else. So that annoyed me. And then the dad's like, "Oh, I can't go on," and he throws her off the bridge, and she's fine. Why didn't he just jump off the bridge too? Why didn't he just jump off?
Yeah, that was a very long, overly dramatic scene, which Disney tends to do a lot. Make it very kind of dramatic, like parent dying at the beginning, which is so cliche at this point for Disney movies. You'd think they could come up with something better at this point. Like, not every fucking Disney movie needs to be about a kid whose parents are either dead or have been dead or half dead in stone. It's like they could be a little bit more creative with their coming of age stuff at this point, but whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah,
so
why didn't he throw him in? Why didn't he just jump with her? Why didn't he just jump with her?
So I was kind of worried at the beginning because I was like, "Oh man, I hope this isn't like the tone for the rest of the movie." But then that was just the introduction. The rest was a lot better.
Well, if he had jumped in with her, though, I don't think that would have necessarily hurt the plot either, because I was like, when the movie started, they try to develop like the Sisu and Raya's relationship, which they do briefly. But that's only really for the first couple like parts of the movie. Then they start introducing way more characters. They could have also just had it developing the relationship between Raya and the dad. I think.
Yeah, and like the dad could have just like been injured, so like he can't go on like the adventuring part. He kind of just like chills back while she does the adventuring, and then.
But I guess they're
gives her a
trying
pat on the back.
I think the stone part though was kind of the like representing death of war. But since the kids movie, they didn't really die. But still, he should have just fucking jumped in. I don't know. They didn't need that little speech. But I guess to kind of soften the blow because it's a kids movie of a dad dying. I don't know.
The arrow could have just like gone through his leg and like nailed him to the wall or something, so he couldn't jump. I don't know.
Yeah, be a little more creative with it.
It just like hook his shirt. I feel like that's a common theme in like kids movies where like their shirt gets hooked on something and they're stuck for like 30 minutes. Like.
Yeah. But the plague thing did look cool. I remember you even said you liked it.
Oh yeah, I really liked the monsters. They actually like felt really like threatening, and like the design was cool.
Yeah, it looked just like the God particle that teleported you through time in the Dark Netflix show.
But like they were pretty scary for like a kids movie. So,
yeah, they felt.
I really liked it.
And they were just like wiping out entire like villages and nations too. So like, you really felt like, oh, this shit's serious.
Yeah, well that's cool. Too. They killed all the dragons too. So like that these things are strong. But
yeah, the Droon was good.
Droon was good. Droon was good.
The thing that. Well, did you have any other things you didn't like?
No, I was going to get into characters next, but if you have something.
Yeah, the main thing I didn't like was Awkwafina's character, Sisu, the dragon. That was just very off-putting, and she was in it a lot at the beginning. I mean, her character was actually fine. It was just really the modern dialogue and like kind of like more modern jokes in a fantasy setting, especially a fantasy setting that's supposed to be influenced by like Southeast Asian culture. It just felt horribly out of place to me, and I really didn't like it.
When they first met, she was just making like all of those puns. It was just like so not funny, and it doesn't bother me too much because I know like it is like a kids movie and it wasn't like too much, but that first scene was like so
she like jumps out. She's like, "Yeah, look at me, slaughter when I hit the water."
Yeah,
and it's like,
and it just went on and on and on.
There was so many, like one or two is fine, but even later too, like there was a little bit of later, and it still bothered me. Like Raya was pretty bad too at times. Like when she was like encountering the Fang army, and it's like, and they're like, "Where'd you get that necklace?" She's like, "What can I say? Bling is my thing." I'm like,
yeah,
it was just so
it
bad.
Luckily, there wasn't too much of it, but yeah, it did seem out of place for like a Southeast Asian high fantasy. That's like the Dungeons and Dragons vibe. It's actually just people playing D&D, and then that's just how the player is projecting onto their character.
Yeah, well, for me, the reason I don't like stuff like that is because when I watch a movie, at least one like this, like a fantasy movie that's like really well done visually.
Yeah, can you imagine
immersive.
if Legolas was talking about his bling?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just completely takes me out of the moment. It's just so distracting. It's like, do they really have to remind you that you're watching a children's movie like every time, like every scene? Does there have to be comic relief? Luckily, it got better. Like the second half of the movie, there was very little of that.
Yeah.
So it was fine. Like when the moments needed to be emotional, that didn't ruin it for me. So it was fine. But still, I just had to call it out because, oh my God, it was just so bad. Like for me, not every. Maybe some people like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too old. Maybe that's actually how youngsters talk these days.
I mean, I didn't think it was funny, but I mean, I it didn't like take away anything for the movie. It was just kind of like a thing, and I just kind of just rolled my eyes at it. But,
the only thing it took away for me is I just felt nothing when Sisu died at the end when she got shot with the arrow. I was like, I don't care, whatever. She wasn't really in it.
So, how do you feel about the line of dialogue where it's just as much your fault as it is my fault that Sisu died, even though I'm the one who brought a crossbow to like a friendly, peaceful meeting, and I'm the one who pulled the trigger,
and I'm the one who stole the stone that unleashed the plague on the world in the first place. Like, I mean, yeah, she was a child, but still. Classic. I'm the victim. I don't need to take responsibility.
I say
for
it was
my
like
actions.
at least
You're
like 80% her fault.
Yeah, she was just projecting. Maybe I don't fucking know. That was kind of bad. But
that line was kind of funny. But I mean, it's whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I think they're just trying to find some sort of dialogue. I mean, I don't think Raya was completely not to blame. Because I think she was going through her trust issues the whole movie, which was fine.
Well, that's kind of what caused like her trust issues, was that he trusted her. It made her like doubt her dad and Sisu's ideas.
But I think the fangirl could have pointed that out a little bit better instead of just saying you're just as much to blame as me. I wouldn't say just as much.
Yeah, they should have said something like we're like one and the same or something like that.
Yeah, the classic me and you are the same. We're not so different.
Two sides of the same coin.
Well, you don't trust me, but I don't trust you either. Why should I trust you when you don't even trust me or something along those lines?
That line I thought was kind of funny.
But it was at least reinforced in the end when she like does end up giving her the gem first, because that's the whole point. Definitely. She had to give her trust in order to get it back. So.
Exactly. I mean, it definitely paid off at the end. Just that one line I thought was just kind of funny.
Oh yeah. All right, so you want to get into characters now then?
Yeah.
Who was your favorite of all of them? Who'd you like the best?
You know how much I hate baby characters, but man, the baby in this movie was great.
The baby was good.
I laughed so hard when it threw the sand in her eyes and ran away. I thought that was like the funniest thing.
And the only thing that like babies are pretty not great in movies. This baby was great, and it was even elevated by having like the sickest friends too, monkeys, little like band of like con monkeys. Like that was so good. It was great. That
and then they actually like did a bunch of stuff too. They were the most useful of the allies that they made throughout the movie.
He snuck into like the Fang base and climbed up that huge tower to deliver the message or the gift.
The huge guy with the axe didn't do shit. It was just carried by the baby and the monkeys.
Yeah. The only baby in cinema that I liked more, I think, than this baby was the Kung Fu baby from the intro of Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
That's a good baby.
That was a good baby.
The baby in Roger Rabbit was pretty good. He's just smoking a cigar all day.
But here's the real question. Would Chosen One baby from Kung Pao be able to defeat the baby from Raya and the Last Dragon?
If she had her monkey friends, then there's no way. Because I feel like Kung Pao, like, he fights by the rules, has a code of honor, but the baby and the monkeys, no rules. They're going to do whatever it takes to win.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. The Chosen One did have the special get your diaper cut off and pee in the enemy's face, though. That was a good tactic he used to fight Evil Betty.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you could defeat Evil Betty as a baby, almost. But...
Almost. He didn't, though. He escaped. They just thought he was dead because he rolled down the hill for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, twice.
Twice. Kung Pao. If you have, those of you listening right now, if you have not watched Kung Pao, you gotta go check it out.
Yeah, if we ever do our Playhouse specials or whatever, that's definitely gonna be like the first one we talk about because it's the greatest. Yeah,
very good movie. So the baby was great, and the monkeys were really good. I also like them. I think they were my favorites as well. But I did enjoy the big like barbarian dude. With Tuk Tuk was his name. I thought
no, Tuk Tuk was the roly poly that they rode on.
Oh, you're right. Fuck yeah, Tuk Tuk was the baby. Well,
Tong,
yeah, Tong. Yeah. That's it. Tong was great. I liked when he had them tied up and he was like trying to be threatening. That was like good children's humor, I thought.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna do something so bad. It's like, oh, your fear. It tastes like mangoes. And then like Sisu was like, oh, mangoes are good. He's like, of course they taste good. Everyone likes mangoes. Like I thought that was actually pretty funny kids humor.
Yeah, he was good. And I just liked it too when he was like, oh, the baby's name was like, I forget what it is. Started with a C, but it's like, yeah, it was on her collar. You guys don't even know. Your friend's name.
Yeah. No, all of those characters were very funny, which was kind of strange because Sisu's character was so unfunny all the time.
Yeah, it was kind of like
really good.
I kind of felt like Sisu was trying too hard, where the other characters just were like naturally funny, but then Sisu's like the friend that doesn't fit in, so they just go over the top.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know, which is weird because I really like Awkwafina. She was so good in The
and
Farewell.
everything else I've seen her, like even in Jumanji, she was good in that.
Yeah, she's really, really great actress. And she's usually pretty funny, too. So I don't know what went wrong with this movie. Maybe just kids' humor isn't great for
Yeah,
for her
and
style.
I think this is the first time voice acting, at least, that I've
seen. That was also kind of weird. I just kept seeing her face the whole time. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought when she was in her human form. I was like, it does kind of look like her, but I mean, maybe it was on purpose, but
yeah. I don't know. But yeah, they were good. And then even the little boy who made the shrimp references all the time was pretty cool. And made the stew. It reminded me of Bubba from Forrest Gump.
He reminded me of our neighbor Jonathan. They kind of look the same when he's younger.
But yeah, the characters were good. All of them.
Yeah, I kind of didn't want their families to come back so they could just hang out together more. You know?
I know, but that's what united, and that's what they all came together. They all represented their village, and they all had like backstories too. Like the baby, she was a con baby because she lost her mom, so he was forced to con people. Like that was enough to show her struggle. And like Tong, he was like the big and strong and buff guy who was kind of more sensitive, but his entire village was killed.
Yeah, and he was just like a lonely guy.
Yeah, but that made me draw parallels to also to Lord of the Rings because he reminded me of the dwarf Gimli from it because he also got all of his ancestors murdered when they go into the tomb in the Fellowship. So I felt like kind of similar there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was gonna. Then the one boy, right? His family all died, so he was living on the boat by himself, right?
Yeah, it was his boat now. So.
He was maybe a little bit more one-toned than the rest of the characters, but he was still.
He was still fine. Like he just loved to cook. That's all he wanted to do.
And then the villain was really good.
Namari.
Yeah, Namari. She was really.
Yeah, I really like. They had a really good rivalry between her and. Yeah, honestly, Raya was like the least interesting character now that I think about it.
Yeah. I mean, she was enough to surface like she had the trust issues, and her dad was dead, I guess. But I think the other plots were more interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. Which is kind of weird, but
but as like a strong, kind of straight protagonist, I think it was fine. It worked.
Yeah, I mean that's what the movie needed was someone like determined.
Exactly, and it worked, and she was pretty badass. She knew how to fight, and she served her purpose.
Yeah, the fighting was actually really cool too. I thought all the action scenes were like way better than like our classic reference Wonder Woman versus Cheetah Girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. All their fights were cool. Seemed like some good hand-to-hand combat at the end too. It was interesting.
And they like used lots of different weapons throughout.
Yeah, and then Tuk Tuk was that the giant little like
roly-poly
thing they rolled around on. I did like that. I wish it was in it more, but I did like Tuk Tuk. I was glad they didn't go the typical Disney. They did a little bit, but the typical Disney route where like Tuk Tuk just has dog-like characteristics.
That's like my biggest pet peeve is with kids movies is when non-dog characters have dog traits. Just make it a dog then.
Yeah,
don't make it a horse that acts like a dog. Just make it a big dog. Who cares?
But this they didn't do that, so it was good.
Yeah, I was really.
They did a lot right. With Disney movies, I'm always like try to like not scrutinize it too much, but this movie, even if you do scrutinize it pretty toughly, it holds up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So the music was also really good in this too. The score I feel like really elevated the movie. I know a lot of people don't really pay attention to music in like kids movies so much, but this one all original score and it all fit really well with the movie.
Yeah, it was really good. There are some, the one that really stood out to me, I think it was when they first meet the shrimp boy on the boat, and they're like riding through the night, and then they like see the droon in the forest in the distance.
Yeah.
Then it played some music that really reminded me of Lord of the Rings again, the Fellowship.
Well, I mean, if someone's comparing your music to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, you're doing something right. So
no, that's not a bad thing. I mean, the movie drew parallels to it. It wasn't straight up copying, but it's still like some similar elements, I thought. But that means it's good. If you can get to that level, good job.
No, definitely.
But yeah, the soundtrack I really enjoyed. I think the only other reference to Lord of the Rings I remembered was there was like a shot of like the gems or something, and there's one, and it reminded me, like, it was almost like exactly the same as like when the ring was dropped in Lord of the Rings and it was like sitting in the sand or something, and I was like, oh, this reminds me of the ring. But I got Lord of the Rings on my mind. I haven't
watched it in a while, so yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It was very good. The soundtrack was great, except for the typical classic children's movies thing now they always do, where they just have a really, I think Zootopia pioneered, actually. They have a really shitty EDM pop song at the end without fail. Like at the end.
Did it? I don't even remember.
It was in the credits. It's in the credits though. It's just really kind of just bad pop song that they always do. Like,
I was kind of waiting for some like hip hop, electronic, whatever song to come in this one at some like montage, but it never did. I honestly expected it to follow like the traditional like thing when someone has to like collect a bunch of things. Like the first thing is always really hard for them to get, and then it's like a montage of all the middle ones, and then like the last one. So I was really expecting that montage in the middle where it just played some crappy pop song and rushed through it. Yeah, while they were collecting it, but they didn't do that, and that made me really happy that it kind of like broke the formula, I felt.
Yeah, it did really good. I feel like each village, like they introduced a character, they got the gym, and then it also was like the building tension between the two main characters. So it was all coming together nicely. Then with the impeding doom of the Droon, it was very well balanced. It was a lot going on, but I'm surprised at how well they handled it all.
Dude, I feel like the first gemstone in like the desert town. Dude, how stupid was the ruler? The ruler should have just got turned to stone, and then they could have got unturned to stone, but instead they just let themselves die, so now they don't even get to come back when the world gets fixed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Those dum-dums.
Yeah, just screwed up. Yeah, there were some dumb things like that, too, like not jumping off the bridge and at the beginning with the dad. And
I liked the Tootin' Boom or whatever it was. I thought that was
Tootin' Booms.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. Tootin' Boom.
That's my new nickname now.
Tootin' Boom. Yeah, and that was like one of the only potty humor jokes, I think, but it was good. Gotta have the fart jokes.
I thought that was one of the better jokes.
It was good. Yeah, that one was. Compared to the other ones, it was good. I think my favorite jokes were still the one from Tong. He was good.
Yeah, no, he was good. So one other thing we kind of mentioned before is how Raya wasn't the most interesting protagonist. Mm-hmm. One thing that I thought would have been cool is if the story was told from like Namari's point of view, and she was the one trying to collect all of the gemstones. I feel like she was a really well done character, and then like she kind of realizes that her mom's like not right about everything, and then she basically has the same arc too, where she has to trust Raya and the other people. Mm-hmm. So I just feel like it might have been interesting just to tell like the same movie but from her point of view and see how it goes from that perspective.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I feel like doing that would have been a little trickier for Disney though, because since she starts off as a villain, I think it'd be maybe harder for kids to want to sympathize with someone who's not obviously the do-gooder, heroic main person. But I think that would have been a much more interesting story of redemption.
Because I feel like her character was way more interesting than Raya, because she kind of does have that thing where she kind of like is preparing to be the next like empress of Fang Village, and then she kind of realizes, oh, my mom's not always right. We do need to like work with these other people instead. It's just more interesting than just like trust is good, not trust bad.
Yeah, well, it would have been interesting to have someone like start off at the beginning being a bad person and then having to work to redeem themselves and actually save the world because they realized their mistake and the pain they caused from trying to steal the diamonds the first time. And it would work too because like Raya is still like trying to steal the gems. Like I don't think she ever listens to Aquafina to give a gift and just ask nicely for it. Exactly. So like she could still do the same thing because like she's a trained assassin. So like she could easily also do the
the stuff and then still meet the same side characters and stuff, just different perspective. I thought that it's just something interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I did kind of like the one thing I did like from telling it from Raya's point of view, though, is that it kind of appeals. I mean, this is maybe more appealing to more like developed nations, though, is that it takes the stance of like the upper privileged side, which is interesting because like at the beginning, their nation had all the wealth, they had all the power, and it's like, oh, you need to be good and treat others well. But it's like, oh, if if people are like lower class than you and you're talking down to them, it's much trickier to do well.
Yeah.
And so she was so quick to blame them and condemn them, basically, even though they're coming from different struggles. She didn't really make the effort to understand it.
Yeah, well, that's what I feel like was really important at the beginning when the dad asks her about the Five Village, and she just talks about like all these negative things, like, oh, the water people just steal, the other people just have big axes and kill everyone. The Fang is just assassins, where it kind of just set up those stereotypes, and then like as the movie progresses she learns like, oh, that's not true, they're people too and with their own struggles.
Yeah, so I think the themes for Raya work better if it was focusing on was it Namari. If it did focus on her, that would have been kind of the typical plot. I feel like that's what we have seen, that one a little more of just like, oh, they made a mistake and have to redeem themselves, kind of like the classic gangster movie who did something bad or is trying to be good, or like the getaway driver who has one last job but has to save the girl or do something right. I feel like that's a little bit more typical of a plot. This one is like, oh, I have to get past all my assumptions of other nations and other people and like different classes and learn more understanding. So her journey is she learns more along the way, which was interesting from a theme point of view.
Yeah.
And they did it very well, very well. So that was good.
Yeah. Well, I just like the Fang Village because everyone has sick haircuts.
Yeah, they did have cool haircuts, little straight cuts. On
yeah, it's so perfect. They must trim it every day to get those split ends, out.
And I did feel like the end was very heartfelt. I like this was one of the better Disney movies. I think I liked it more. What was the other recent Disney princess ones? Princess and the Frog, Tangled, Brave, Frozen. Oh, I still need to watch Frozen 2.
I haven't seen Frozen yet either. Yeah.
I feel like I've seen the first Frozen a billion times. But,
I know I've heard the song a billion times.
Dude, the best version of the song is the Tweeka's remix of it.
Ooh.
Happy Hardcore Hardstyle remix.
I just remember that was when I visited you in Japan, and then every store I went to was just playing the Japanese version of that song.
Yeah, I remember in Japan, like after we did our finals, they put on like Frozen in Japanese, so I got to watch it in Japanese. And then in my other class, which is like an English class, I was helping teach the Japanese students English. We got to watch it in English, so I got to watch it twice in the same week. So yeah, that was great. But yeah, I know this was a great movie.
Yeah.
Do you have any other points you want to say?
I have one other thing I wanted to bring up. So, like, clearly this movie is based on like Southeast Asian cultures, but Disney Plus isn't available in a lot of the countries that it's representing. So, and I know a lot of people were complaining about that. I just thought it was kind of funny because, like, just because Disney's so greedy, like, of course they're not going to make it easily accessible, especially to like poorer countries. Like, I tried to look up to see if Disney has like regional pricing. Because like no one in like a third world country is going to pay $30 to watch this movie, and they do have regional pricing. But like a executive did make a point that they're only looking for like high dollar value markets, so they're probably going to be very slow rolling out to a lot of these other countries.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think Disney actually gives two fucks about impoverished nations or third world countries. They're just making a movie because, oh, that's what people seem to care about who have money now. So let's make it for our audience because they'll pay money and then they'll feel like they're learning something good or teaching people good lessons. I mean, I like to believe there's some like corporate good in Disney, but when they don't make it available and that's like a movie they're trying to make it about or like maybe educate people in some way, but they're not actually making an effort to make the movie accessible because they want to just get more money, then it's kind of like, Disney doesn't really give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
And just with Disney's history of being culturally insensitive as well, very doubtful of their intentions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they're finally doing some more representation, even if it is solely for profits, but I just feel it's better to have more, even if the intention is money. Long term, I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make money in order to like really make change and do differences. I guess it's better than not doing it at all. Yeah, they could keep making their same shitty, insensitive stuff. So that's definitely worse. Yeah. But still, it could always be better. Come on, Disney, step it up.
Come on, Disney.
Step it up, Disney.
That's my big thing. I feel like Hollywood and like Disney is in such a position to be able to like show more representation and like help against like racism, but they just like choose not to because they're 30 years behind the times on like what the cultural norms are nowadays.
Yeah, well, I highly doubt that anyone who actually has power or money in these corporations really have very progressive ideas
Yeah.
anyway. They're more business focused, so it's not everyone's agenda to be progressive. They just want to
Yeah.
appeal to mass audiences, make more money, and make sure their company goes well. So they don't really want to take risks by making stuff that might seem progressive or controversial. So I mean, I get where they're coming from a business point of view, but that I don't think they should be doing it.
Yeah.
I understand their thinking, but I don't agree with
Do you know why they named the movie Frozen?
because she's a cold bitch in it.
No, because if people Google like is Walt Disney frozen, like they're keeping him alive underneath Disneyland to resurrect him, that they just get the movie instead of all the conspiracy theories.
Oh, dude, that's smart.
I think that's suspicious. So I think that strengthens the conspiracy theories that Walt Disney is still frozen.
Dude, there's so much weird stuff that Disney's done in the past. Like I saw, like when they originally created Disney World, they wanted to make it like their own independent like society of like with their own government and stuff. So like they basically were trying to pay the government to build this whole place where like all of the employees, and there'd be like an apartment where people just live and work at Disney World. And they
That
don't
sounds
leave
like
or go anywhere.
some like
they just stay there.
dystopian shit right
Yeah,
there.
dude, it's insane. They're trying to do it, but the problem was it like fell through because they're like, who would live here? Like, because they wanted to have like no bars, no alcohol, like a children's fun-friendly place, but
I'm
people
sure
live
it's
there.
just like to avoid taxes.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very strange though.
There's another rumor going around. So supposedly, if you're like an animator for Disney, Disney owns any work that you do, like regardless. Like if you do anything, any drawings or anything, Disney owns that if you work for them. So supposedly, a group of artists just drew a bunch of porn. And they just kept drawing like all this porn, and then now so Disney just has all this. So Disney owns all the porn because they drew it while they're under contract. So supposedly there's like a vault somewhere of all the porn that they've collected that these artists drew somewhere. So that's a fun Disney fact for you.
The Disney vault of Disney princess porn.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's just a rumor, but I mean, with Disney, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any, maybe they're just waiting for the time, like, oh, when porn is more normalized and acceptable in the world, then we can release this to mass audiences.
Yeah.
But now it's too early; they're just sitting on it.
Or
it's like the black market of Disney. They have this whole like trading thing of well, it's just Disney.
I don't know.
porn
I'm just
to
waiting
the
for like the
elites.
angry intern to release all of it and ruin their reputation.
Oh, dude, we should try to become interns. I'm curious about the inner workings of Disney. That'd be interesting.
I mean, I know Disneyland has all those like secret tunnels underneath for the employees. I kind of want to go check those out.
Yeah, well, the secret tunnels, that's for the garbage disposal. At least at Disney World, it was set up that way. So when they take rid of garbage, you never really see people carrying garbage that far. It's because they go to these secret underground tunnels and they wheel it out so the people don't have
I
to
want to
look
go
at
in the
trash.
Disney garbage tunnel.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I have heard, too, that like I think Disney, they have like a summer internship program or some type of thing where like students go and like work in different corporate or whatever jobs there. But when they go, there's like dorms that they all stay at. So it's like for like however many months their internship is, all these like young people that are like in school still just live, and they have to like follow all the Disney rules and eat all the Disney food, and they can't like see their family and stuff. But I hear they just like, it's just a crazy party, and they just go like buck wild when they're working at Disney. And it's just crazy. All these like Disney cult things and Disney parties.
It sounds fun.
I wish I knew about that when I was in college.
I know. I wasted my time getting a finance degree. I should have just been a Disney boy.
Disney boy. I want to major in Disney Plus. All right. Well, that's all I have to say about.
Yeah. So would you
Raya
recommend
and the
Raya and the Last Dragon?
Yes, I absolutely would. This is a good kids movie. This is also back to our original questions you were asking about Tom and Jerry. Does this work as a kids movie? Yes. It's got fun action, good messages. It's easy for kids to digest. Lots
I'm
of
sure
humor.
the kids would like the jokes more than us. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They probably would even love Aquafina's jokes and things, which bothered me. And then does it work as just like a normal movie too for like, I don't know, maybe young adults or parents? And I'd say yes, this has some themes of war, has some intense messages and some more like difficult, challenging things. So
Good
it was
action, yeah.
good action, and it just looks beautiful. So if you like animation at all, it looks great. It looks really, really great. Mm-hmm. And then what was it? Well, there's only two lenses.
As a Tom and Jerry movie, so
I guess
it's not a good Tom and Jerry movie. You don't see no cats or rats.
Yeah, there's no cats, no rats, and no Michael Pena. Sadly,
no Michael Pena, no dogs eating burritos.
no dogs eating burritos. No Michael Pena. What about you? Would you recommend this movie, Charlie?
I would recommend it.
You would recommend it?
I would recommend it.
How would you compare it to other Disney movies?
I think this is one of the better ones that I've seen recently. I mean, I'm not a huge like Disney fan. I just kind of watch them because they're there. But this one was definitely entertaining. I really enjoyed it.
Do you enjoy it more or less than the Pixar movies?
Oh yeah, it was way better. I mean, Pixar I think is worse than Disney. Their movies are very formulaic, and even I feel like Disney tries to do new things every once in a while if it's not a live action remake. So
yeah.
And I like anything fantasy, so
yes. Oh yeah, even as a fantasy movie, this is pretty good compared to some of the ones out there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there aren't a lot of fantasy movies, so yeah, this one was really good.
It's very good, very good. So
I did watch a while ago the Dark Crystal. Series.
What'd you think?
That was a good one. I mean, that one's very like typical plot, very simple plot, but I mean, I love those puppets.
Yes, the puppets are great. I'm just excited for the new Dune movie. I'm curious about that one.
I'm curious, but I'm not getting my hopes up yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Dude, it's going to be a make or break Timothée Chalamet's career, I think. He's a great actor. This could be his first dud, though.
Well, is the director the same as the new Blade Runner movie? I feel like I saw that, but it might have been a dream or something.
I don't know. I don't remember, to be honest.
I just remember I read the book a long time ago, and I didn't like it, but I might have been too young. I feel like I would appreciate it now. But that's like a fat book. I don't think I'm going to reread it.
Yeah, reading's a lot of work. Why read when you can watch movies? Come on.
Once the movie's out, the book's going to be obsolete. Just throw it in the trash.
Exactly. Burn those books. Movies are the superior medium for storytelling. Come on.
Yeah, it's like books are like down here, and then movies, and then commercials.
Commercials, the highest form of art are commercials. Alrighty. Well, anything else, or should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. If you made it this far with us, give us a like and a subscribe. We would really appreciate it because we need it. We need the views. We need the support. Check it out.
We want to quit our jobs.
We want to quit our jobs. Make it so we can do this full time by sharing and telling your friends and family. All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.